has been reached, substantive equality, then those measures will become irrelevant. So that's what we always advocate for. Now, to your question, first of all, even before going to the corporate, we have been advocating and we have been supporting and we have actually been able to achieve constitutional amendments and legal measures in many countries whereby quotas have been set for parliaments. Because
not in India.
Not yet in India, but the reservation bill, which has been pending now for 15-16 years, is something that we strongly advocate for. There are, of course, electoral systemic complications, and also our diversity of interests in terms of communities and that kind of dynamics comes into play. But we are strongly in support of reservation of seats, parliamentary seats for women. And of course on a temporary basis till such time as they are enabled. And I think we have such a brilliant example in the local government context. It has really empowered women. It has changed not only women, it has empowered communities. It has also changed the face of development.
It brings better accountability.
Better accountability and integrity, and also better delivery of services to everyone. Schools, bridges. I remember there was a village panchayat leader who was speaking at one of the events that we had organized, and she said, you know,
she was from Maharashtra, I believe.
Yeah, this one was from Rajasthan. Rajasthan. We were in somewhere near Jaipur, but so she said, मैं जब पहली बार इलेक्ट हुई तो मैं नॉमिनेट होके रिजर्वेशन में हुई, अभी मैं 15 आदमियों को हरा के आई हूँ और अपने बलबूते पे, because I was able to.
She was clad in jeans and all that, modern looking lady.
There was another one of that, but this one was quite traditional looking but very strong. And she said, people voted for me because I delivered.
Yes.
I built roads, I got schools opened, I got projects done. So this is the face we have to also present, that it's not only for women and girls that we do reservation, and we do it for good governance.
So those girls themselves are advocating the requirement for reservation.
Exactly. So they are saying you need it in order to enable us to come to the point where we don't need it.
Yes.
And also to a point where people recognize the value of women's equal participation in governance. So bringing me, that brings me to the corporate world. Around the world, this is a major challenge.
Yes.
As you know, whether you're talking about Fortune 500 companies, on less than 5% are women CEOs, and also in the C-suite, whether it is in the and in the boards of companies, and the same applies to women, to India. But there are many countries, and particularly I would like to quote the example, because you've asked specifically about reservation, to quote the example of Norway. We need to have some special measures like they took. They said any company that is wanting to be listed on the stock exchange has to have 50% women in their boards.
And we have the societies like Japan and China where there's no existence of any women in the board. Now
they have legislated. They have now both. In fact, today there was something about China, but also Japan. We have been working with them as well. By the way, China and Japan, both of the countries where we have strong programs to, also push for change. So this is a very strong, in a way, mandatory movement. Otherwise,
not temporary, but it's mandatory.
It is mandatory. They don't say it is temporary.
Yeah.
They say this is the requirement, and it transformed the whole scene. it was overnight. You would they had 40%, and in India also there are moves. Now in the European Union, there are many countries. Germany, initially there was resistance, and then now they have also, both in terms of incentivizing as well as in terms of disincentivizing. And Australia, for example, in public procurement, they say if you have women-owned companies, we will give you a certain preference. If you are using women suppliers, we will give you. So, so these kind of incentives help build the women's management and governance capacity in the corporate sector as well. So you do need some special measures.
Doesn't it surprise you, India जैसी country जिदे विच बहुत देर पहला प्राइम मिनिस्टर औरत हो चुकी है, बड़ी स्ट्रॉन्ग प्राइम मिनिस्टर रह चुकी है, प्रेसिडेंट हो चुकी है, पर उसके बावजूद whether it's parliamentary reservation or corporate positive action, affirmative action, you're feeling like anything?
Well, we have succeeded in many ways, and we have had chief ministers who are women.
Yes.
And we have had, and also in Prime Minister Modi's cabinet, we have a very large number of the first-time women foreign ministers and other ministers. So I think we are taking several steps forward, but also not enough. As you know, in Parliament we are still less than 10% of women. In also state assemblies, I don't think we are any better. Political parties as well,
It's less than 5% actually.
Yes. So now we are now looking at not enough progress and very slow progress. So this is not. It's not going to take us to planet 50-50, India 50-50 by 2030. We have to accelerate. We have to take extraordinary steps. And that's why we keep saying special measures in every area. And I think judiciary is another very important area where I feel that we haven't achieved enough in terms of parity. We are the world's largest democracy. I would like it to be in the forefront of parity democracy, gender parity democracy. That's the campaign we are leading in many parts of the world, including Latin America, parity democracy.
But we are not leading by example in those cases where we come back again and again, parliament, corporate sector.
Exactly. We have a great women's movement in India.
Yes, we have.
Very respected, globally respected, and so many strong NGO leaders are women.
Okay.
So, despite that, we still need to engender that whole space.
So the whole action on paper and on ground is not equal to the time that we are in today.
And also the commitment that has been made, as I said, the Gender Equality Compact that has been made internationally by all governments.
अब अपना फेवरेट सब ऑफ द डे करो रिपीट विदाउट वेटिंग फॉर अ वीक, और हाँ सूखे सूखे नहीं, एडेड ड्रिंक प्लीज.
हेलो बेटा देख के गॉड ब्लेस यू बेटा, रब ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਲੰਬੀ ਉਮਰ ਕਰੇ.
ਸਾਡੇ ਬੱਚਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਜੀ ਕੋਈ. ਉਹ 10 ਸਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਮੈਰਿਜ ਹੋਈ ਨੂੰ, ਥਾਂ ਥਾਂ ਤੇ ਇਲਾਜ ਕਰਾ ਕੇ ਥੱਕ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਆ.
ਨਿਰਾਸ਼ ਹੋਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਕਹੇ ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਆਸ਼ਾ ਕਿਰਨ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਓ. ਇਸ ਹਸਪਤਾਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਕੱਲਾ ਇਹੀ ਜੋੜਾ ਨਹੀਂ, ਬਲਕਿ ਅਨੇਕਾਂ ਜੋੜਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਔਲਾਦ ਦਾ ਸੁੱਖ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ. ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮਾਂ ਬਣਨ ਦਾ ਸੁਪਨਾ ਸਾਕਾਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਤਾਂ ਨਿਰਾਸ਼ ਹੋਣ ਦੀ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ. ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਆਸ਼ਾ ਕਿਰਨ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਆਓ ਤੇ ਖੁਸ਼ੀਆਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ ਲੈ ਜਾਓ.
ਹੁਣ ਮਾਂ ਬਣਨ ਦਾ ਸੁਪਨਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਪੂਰਾ.
लीडर कौन होता है जो लाखों लोगों की तकदीर बदलता है? इंडिया का नंबर 1 बोलेरो पिकअप दे रहा है ऐसी गारंटी जो सिर्फ एक लीडर ही दे सकता है. वो भी एक नहीं, 2 बड़ी गारंटी. पहली, 4 साल बाद कम से कम 4 लाख रुपए में बाई बैक की गारंटी. दूसरी 2 साल तक गाड़ी के खर्चे की जिम्मेदारी महिंद्रा की, यानी फ्री मेंटेनेंस। तो इंडिया का नंबर 1 बोलेरो पिकअप अपनाइए और बदलिए अपनी तकदीर। बोलेरो पिकअप, तकदीर बदल दे।
हर सवेर तू एक्स्ट्रा टाइम छिनदी हां, एक्स्ट्रा कोशिश करदी हां, सुपने ने अगे बढ़न दे। इसलिए हर रोज समय नाल एक्स्ट्रा लड़दी हां अते सुपने ना पीरियड्स ले नहीं रुकते। इसलिए स्टे फ्री एक्स्ट्रा लार्ज एदा ज्यादा लंबा पैड देवे मैनू 12 घंटे तक प्रोटेक्शन, क्योंकि हर रोज समय नाल एक्स्ट्रा लड़दी हां।
I tell you, इस घर में कुछ नहीं मिलता, you know? क्या? एक भी सब्जी नहीं? फिर रोहित को अपने विटामिन्स किस तरह से मिलेंगे? नो ग्रीन लीफी वेजिटेबल्स, एक गाजर तक नहीं।
दादी,
क्या?
एक सेकेंड। दादी को नहीं पता कि हमारे नए गोदरेज H2O में है सेपरेट वेजी ड्रॉर, जो रखे सब्जी की जगह और खाना खाने की।
मम्मी जी गाजर दो।
गोदरेज अप्लायंसेस सोच के बनाया है।
ਨਿਰਸੰਤਾਨ ਜੋੜਿਆਂ ਲਈ ਸੁਨਹਿਰਾ ਮੌਕਾ। ਯੂਰਪ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰਮੁੱਖ IVF ਕਲੀਨਿਕ ਹੁਣ ਲੁਧਿਆਣਾ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਹਰ 5 ਘੰਟੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਭਰ 'ਚ ਇੱਕ IVF ਬੱਚੇ ਦਾ ਜਨਮ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਫ੍ਰੀ ਅਪਾਇੰਟਮੈਂਟ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ 7861800700।
Mesmerizing carpets, the homes that inspire. Jagdish Store.
ਇਹ ਕਿਸੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮਾਂ ਬਣਨ ਦਾ ਸੁਪਨਾ ਸਾਕਾਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਤਾਂ ਨਿਰਾਸ਼ ਹੋਣ ਦੀ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ। ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਆਸ਼ਾ ਕਿਰਨ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ आओ ਤੇ ਖੁਸ਼ੀਆਂ ਆਪਣੇ घर ले जाओ।
तुम्हारे लिए हर चीज होनी चाहिए बिल्कुल परफेक्ट। तुम इतने छोटे से जो हो और तुमसे जुड़ी कोई भी बात छोटी नहीं होती। ये बात जॉनसन्स बेबी भी समझते हैं। उनका हर प्रोडक्ट 5 लेवल सेफ्टी प्रोसेस से गुजरता है और है क्लिनिकली टेस्टेड। इसीलिए तो जॉनसन्स करे ऑलवेज बेस्ट फॉर बेबी।
जॉनसन्स की 125वीं सालगिरह पर अपने बेबी की बेस्ट केयर स्टोरी हमें बताएं।
शादी दा ख्याल आया तां असीं अक्सर ख्यालां विच खो जांदे हां। शायद योगा क्लास दे बाहर कोई फिल्म स्टार टकरा जावे, शायद किसी मशहूर क्रिकेटर दी नजर पै जावे। शायद.com तो निकलो ते शादी.com ते आओ। ਇੱਥੇ 50 ਲੱਖ ਤੋਂ ਵੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਆਪਣਾ ਪਰਫੈਕਟ ਲਾਈਫ ਪਾਰਟਨਰ। punjabishadi.com ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਰਜਿਸਟਰ ਕਰੋ।
All muscle, all heart. Isuzu MUX.
हर सवेर तू एक्स्ट्रा टाइम छिनदी हां, एक्स्ट्रा कोशिश करदी हां, सुपने ने अगे बढ़न दे। इसलिए हर रोज समय नाल एक्स्ट्रा लड़दी हां अते सुपने ना पीरियड्स ले नहीं रुकते। इसलिए स्टे फ्री एक्स्ट्रा लार्ज एदा ज्यादा लंबा पैड देवे मैनू 12 घंटे तक प्रोटेक्शन, क्योंकि हर रोज समय नाल एक्स्ट्रा लड़दी हां।
When you see the whole psyche of our society, of course, across the globe, you don't have a matriarchal country or a state anywhere. Everywhere is patriarchal. But let's say we are sitting in New York right now. ਅਸੀਂ ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ 'ਚ ਬੈਠੇ ਹਾਂ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦਾ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਲਿਬਰਲ ਸਿਟੀ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਵੂਮਨ ਲਿਬਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ। You understand that ਕਿ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੀ ਉਦਾਹਰਨ ਦੁਨੀਆ 'ਚ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਖੜੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਹਾਲੇ ਤੱਕ। ਉਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਵਜੂਦ funny enough ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ pink tax ਲਗਾਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ। As a woman, if you buy cosmetics, you pay more tax than what I pay as a man.
In fact, we have, it's interesting that you mentioned New York as one of the most liberal cities. We are one of the first UN organizations to have an MOU with the city of New York. And we have a partnership program with them on all aspects of gender equality and women's empowerment. And many issues we are tackling together. I think
has anyone ever talked about the pink tax?
Just been no, pink tax is part of the larger issue of economic empowerment. But in fact, pink tax has been mentioned in our Commission on Status of Women resolution.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are many such things that still need to be fixed. But we are working with the cities of the world, because cities is where the world is moving, right? And where we can build a new, better.
Yes,
you
can create leading examples.
And create leading examples,
yes.
Exactly. So, New York is one of them, but we have also something called Safe and Sustainable Cities Program for women and girls. So, and New York is part of that. And they have brought in 66 US cities into that. Plus Delhi, and now there are some 8-9 cities in India who are also part of this. So the idea is, in order to address the totality of urban development, to address gender equality and women's empowerment centrally in everything that a city does, infrastructure, transport, lighting, markets, designer, sanitation, all of that. How do you make it gender responsive? So this is something that, and also to address inequalities, as you have pointed out, in the way taxes administered, or in the way schools are endowed. Yes. I mean, these are some just simple examples. So these are some things that we are very much engaged in. But I want to, if I may just come back, Professor Saluja, to your earlier question about UN Women. Apart from this norm setting and advocacy and movement building, one other major project for us has been how to build a knowledge hub. Because all your questions also indicate that there is so much making the case to do and bringing out the facts. And that is what we are wanting to do, a gender statistics revolution. We need to know and bring out what is happening on the ground with women and girls everywhere. Are they, whether it's economic empowerment, violence against women, types of violence, what are the responses, what is working, what is not working, all of that. So we call it the gender statistics revolution. So that's what we are trying to also do, and we have a program which is called Making Women and Girls Count. And we are also, and India is one of the Pathfinder countries, self-declared Pathfinder countries, but we have others as well, some 20 countries who are now, we are working with, to make gender statistics a central part of their own data. And now we are so much helped by social media, the digital revolution, in order to really get ahead in that. So that's another major partnership. And private sector partnership is another one which UN Women has also undertaken, and both in India and globally. So this is the other part. And so I just thought that you should also know that knowledge, and it's about provoking outrage. It's like, during the freedom movement,
dissemination of information,
as you use the term rightly, emancipation of women.
Yes.
During the freedom movement, it is about bringing out the injustice and oppression.
Yes.
But people don't believe unless they see the statistics. When they realize, you mentioned sex selection,
yes.
When they realize that actually this is the gap.
Yeah. It's not just my account.
It's not just my account, or it's not just one isolated case.
Yes.
So this is something that is really important, to provoke outrage and then also to compel a consciousness. You know, Vivekananda used to, one of his really inspiring calls used to be arise, awake,
and stop not.
And stop not. So this whole arising and awakening is very important, and knowledge is the basis of that.
I have a question.
What's your impression of the Middle Eastern countries?
Yes, so we have just opened a UAE Gulf office for the Gulf. And we have a very strong, for UN Women office. And UAE has been a central champion. So we have developed a partnership. As I said, and we are also in conversation with and in dialogue. We have been with Saudi Arabia, with all the countries of the Gulf. But we also have a very strong Arab States office in Egypt, which deals with the whole Arab region. And there, of course, our approach is also on humanitarian. So we are working on, as I said, economic empowerment, political participation and leadership, ending violence against women, peace and security in conflict situations, and gender responsive planning and budgeting. But very importantly, we are working in conflict countries or natural disasters or in refugee situations. We are working on humanitarian response and resilience building, making sure that whatever support, humanitarian support is provided and response is given in any situation, whether it's Syria or Iraq or Libya or other parts of the world where there is such crisis, humanitarian crisis, that there is a very strong focusing on the differential and disproportionate impact on women and girls. And people don't even realize that, but it is there. That they are more vulnerable to violence, exploitation.
Yes, they are.
And also they are particularly targeted. So they need to be protected. But at the same time, they are also they are in the front line of actually delivering a response and succor. So, but we are not recognizing that, we are not empowering them enough. So we are working on all fronts, and also they are the long-term resilience builders in situations like this. So that's a very important area which we have opened UN Women in the last 3 years in particular. So yes, we have been in the Middle East.
My next question.
You have any? Go ahead.
Yes. My next question is regarding your target, which is a huge target. Of course, we can admit 2030 is a huge target. Now, when you just talked about the conflict situations, it's understood, and even the research says that women and children are the first sufferers and they are the biggest sufferers. Do you think UN Women, your organization, needs more resources and some extra power to meet that target?
Absolutely. This has been one of my regrets, that the international community has been very strong in committing in terms of norms and standards to gender equality and women's empowerment and women's human rights, but they have not invested enough in the global institution that they have set up to take this mission forward.
So the delivery part is weak?
No, so the financial commitment part has not been commensurate with the political commitment, declared political commitment.
So how far are you from the actual requirement?
So we are very strapped in terms of, and under-resourced. Original target was $1 billion, then it had been put down to 500 million, and now we are even striving to reach the 300 million target. So it has been a big challenge, and governments are our main supporters. We have tried to also raise from philanthropy. We have tried to raise from private sector, and we have been somewhat successful in that, including from India, by the way, making also use of the CSR, you know, the requirement now, corporate social responsibility, the 2% now that government has made compulsory that companies must spend on corporate social responsibility. So we are doing everything, but the governments have not been as forthcoming in supporting us financially.
Do you expect corporate sector could be more involved? Maybe a one comes up, or
absolutely. We have, in fact, that Making Women and Children Count is supported by the Gates Foundation.
It was really good talking to you, ma'am, and thank you so much for such a long interview. First, Saluja, thank you for accompanying me and accommodating me. Before we close, you have given us a lot of information. You have told us the limitations that you face. Would you like to say something to the audience?
Sure. I would like to say to all the women and girls, come forward and claim your rights, which are equal to any man or boy. So that's the first thing I would like to say. And to all the men and boys, I would like to say, join the He for She movement, become a champion for the gender equality cause, because that's the most important cause that will not only be good for women and girls who are your mothers, your sisters, your wives, your partners, your colleagues, but also it's good for you. Never think that it is about someone else. It is about you.
Thank you so much for that, Ambassador Puri. मैं खुद कह सकता चाहे परिवार दे चाहे काम दे तजर्बे तो जिथे औरतां दे हक तुहाडे बराबर ने उत्थे तनाव घट खुशी और काम सैटिस्फैक्शन थोड़ी ज्यादा आ सो दैट्स व्हाट शी इज ट्राइंग टू से उम्मीद करते हैं कि इस लंबी चौड़ी इंटरव्यू चो कुछ गल्लां दिमाग च रह जाणगियां तुहाडे किसी होर नूं दसोगे ते शायद जो असीं बार-बार गुरबाणी दे हवाले दे के गल करदे हां वो प्रैक्टिकली नजर आउणगे थैंक यू सो मच वंस अगेन फॉर योर टाइम
थैंक यू वेरी मच
I tell you, इस घर में कुछ नहीं मिलता, you know? क्या?